I'm never nervous presenting to people, but after these two, I think I'm going to go home. What I thought I'd do was just talk a little bit about my background and my story, particularly around the sort of funding that we did for Augnet. So, yeah, for anyone who is funding, actually, is anyone due to do any funding over the next sort of year or so, or is it?
Next year,
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Everyone else just talk amongst yourselves. So yeah, my background was at Skype. I joined Skype at quite an early age for the company, and I headed up the telecoms business there. So that was essentially connecting the Skype platform to all of the telecom operators around the world. And we had two parts of the business. One was our voice business for making phone calls. And that's quite a data-rich environment. That's quite easy to govern and audit our spend. We had about $250 million spend on that. And on the other side, we had SMS, which is just plagued with problems. So at a technical level, when a company, it could be a bank or dentist, or you've just downloaded Uber, they need to verify your phone. So all these application-to-person messages, there's no signalling that happens. So when you send a message, there's no way to prove that that message has been received. And what happens, there's a lot of fraud that happens. So companies, say from Uber, will take your messages to Belgium, we'll deliver 95% of them, and 5% you're not really going to notice if they disappear. And we're charging for those messages. So that's sort of it's a fraudulent event, and it's just commonplace. About 5% of the world's messages disappear in this fraudulent manner, and there's no way to prove how it's resolved. So this is what Augnet was set up to do. We now have a solution for that, and we're launching. Actually, we handed over our first bit of code to our first customer today, coincidentally. So it's a bit of a milestone today, and they're due to go live in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, one of the big things that we get asked a lot about is how we did our fundraise, because at the time that we went to raise money, we were pre-revenue, we're actually pre-product. We had a concept and an idea and a big problem to solve, and we managed to raise £1.3 million on a £7.5 million valuation, which for anyone pre-revenue is exceedingly rare. It does happen in the US more, the West Coast, but in the UK, to be a year away from revenue, it rarely happens. A lot of the things that I found, which took me a long time to learn, so hopefully it's a shortcut for anyone who is looking to raise. When you are doing your pitch, I would say that your product, your solution, is almost irrelevant. That can come right at the back of the deck. If you've got a dozen slides, you can really stick it at the last one or two slides. And the point that you have to get across before then is that there is a problem that you're solving. There is customers that would like to buy it. You are the right team to do this. And maybe if you're a younger person, or it's not directly your field, then you can fill in gaps with advisors, and there's a lot of sort of free resource of people who would like to be interested in the startup community. And it's sort of a progressive story, so that by the time you do say, and here's what we do, they're already sold that it's a fantastic team, there is a problem, people will pay for it. You seem pretty mature and switched on in the data that you're collecting, and how you've sort of processed maybe growing the operations to this point. And I find that a lot of people have that in reverse. They talk about their product first and foremost, and by the way, you could probably make a business out of this. And it's so many people do that. They take this product first approach, that's probably the biggest recommendation I'll give. With where to meet the investors, that can be quite tough, and most people just turn to LinkedIn and just angel investors and start, we'd like to connect, we've got an interest proposition for you. What we did was did quite a lot of research. I would say that before sending a message to any investor, whether it's VC or angel, we did probably about 20 minutes worth of research at least into every investor. And then it was a very personalised message. We would say, we've seen that you've invested in this, there's a bit of crossover into our area, we'd like to speak to you about that. It felt like, although we'd never met them before, we really wanted them to feel that we would stalking them as much as we could through their online presence. The online bit's important. Stalking us as well, otherwise.
That's not a recommendation, by the way.
Our success rate of reaching out to people who we knew online was dramatically improved. And also timing. We maybe it's a bit of pride where we didn't want to be asking for money, but we even if we, as our fundraising was ramping up and we sort of were needing the money, there was never that pressure to say to people, we're doing a fundraise. It was always, we're really interested in you as a person, we think you could help, add some strategic value, give us some guidance. We'll probably be raising some money at some point in the future, but right now, you're just a great person and it's really relevant to what we're doing. And then it sort of progressed into quite a good story where even 2 weeks later, we could say, well, things have actually really taken off. We've been approached by other investors. We are working a little bit quicker than anticipated, and that's a nice miscalculation to have, rather than just we need money. I think the timing and the order and the research are sort of three really sort of good, critical components. And it does save a lot of time. It might sound quite a lengthy process to go through 20 minutes research per person, but your hit rate is going to be so much better than blasting out 100 messages in a couple of hours with just a generic, hey, are you interested? We're gearing up at the moment to launch. We've got some beta customers, but one of the challenges that we have is twofold. One is that we're selling to some of the largest telecoms companies in the world and some of the largest enterprise customers in the world, like Microsoft and Uber and so on. And the time it takes for, you guys touched on this earlier, about B2B, just it's expensive, it's slow, it's very hard to forecast revenue, and that just goes against the grain of what investors want. In our case, that was something that we put up front. Investors quite often ask, what are your challenges? And we said, well, as a buyer for Microsoft, I know that this is something that Microsoft would want, but I'm also aware that if I wanted to implement this, I'm aware of the challenges. And having the maturity to say that we know what we're facing, it's going to be an uphill struggle, but you need, again, you need more than vision, you need to actually take actions to sort of address that. And having that sort of quite direct discussion, and even in our first meeting, we were sort of volunteering stuff that people ordinarily might be a little bit, they don't want to say this now, we might scare them off. But this sort of transparency and honesty and being authentic is something that is super valuable. I mean, even we had a board meeting today, and the director of the VC who's the director of our company, was being quite sort of American, wanted to give a high five, and we're like, well, it sounds like we're making good progress, but I prefer not to do that until we get to first customer and first invoice. So even having this sort of maturity around, well, let's not celebrate, everything's been held back, is, again, it's I think it's quite an honest view that a lot of investors don't get. They're used to this quite hoorah, like, we're taking on the world and we're winning, and no startup is like that. There's always stuff that's happening behind the scenes that people ordinarily might not want to share. So being authentic is it can be tough, but you've just got to make it part of your personality and be quite forward and abrupt with it. I don't. Other than anything, any other sort of specific points I was going to bring up, just sort of throw it open, see if there's any questions or.
We'll give you a round of applause first.